Yes, I do a Sailor Moon podcast on Mondays, usually. The scheduling's a bit up in the air. So you might have noticed that if you're watching these rallies, that Trump, on the one hand, talks about how much he trusts Dr. Fauci and listens to what he says, and you know, uh, he listened to Dr. Fauci, and you should too, because remember, 8 months ago, Dr. Fauci said not to panic and you don't need to wear masks. Not like he has issued many clarifications after that, as the pandemic became more serious and hundreds of thousands of people died. But the general premise behind Trump's statements has been that Dr. Fauci is a very respected and nice man, and you should listen to him, while also simultaneously going out to rallies and talking about how despicable and how big of a failure he is, and basically impugning his credibility at every given turn when he's not directly in front of people who are going to support him no matter what he says. So that might be now. I'm no political scientist or anything, but it might be that that's precisely why Dr. Fauci has been receiving death threats of late. This man whose only job is to make sure that Americans live has been receiving death threats. He's 79 years old. He now has to have a security detail at all times, which, by the way, he's a runner. He can no longer run, so he needs to walk with his security detail. So we're just gonna watch this little excerpt from 60 Minutes here. We'll see. Let's see what's going on in the world of Anthony Fauci. Okay.
Once an avid runner, at 79, Dr. Fauci now power walks, flanked by federal agents.
What's that all about?
That's sad. The very fact that a public health message to save lives triggers such venom and animosity to me that it results in real and credible threats to my life and my safety. But it bothers me less than the hassling of my wife and my children.
They've been threatened.
Yeah, I mean, give me a break.
Have there been death threats against you and your...
Now, imagine you're a doctor, right? And your patient comes in and is like, "Hey, doc, we have this problem. I have butt cancer, okay? I have cancer of the butt. And somehow it has mutated, and I am now capable of giving butt cancer to everyone around me." And your doctor goes, "Well, wear these special diapers, okay? These special diapers, they're relatively easy to put on, and they'll reduce your chance of spreading butt cancer to everyone else." And you're like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill your family. And your kids." Now imagine that, except the response is overwhelming from the entirety of the United States of America. Like a good, 30% of 300 million people. So tens of millions of people who are so triggered by you trying to save their lives that they are willing to threaten your safety, the safety of your wife, the safety of your grandkids and your kids. Totally normal.
All of you, your
No,
daughter.
just me, but
Harassment against all of
harassment
us.
against the rest of the family.
Imagine that. That's the world we currently live in. That is the reality that we now live in, because Donald Trump during his rallies can't just say, "Listen to my top doctor who is telling you these things," and instead Donald Trump has to constantly spin reality to have to be hanging on his every word, and his supporters eat it up, which turns out is a huge problem, because Republican strongholds that are more likely to vote for Trump and listen to Trump and get their information from Trump, turns out they're not doing so hot right now, fam. So let's take a look at this this map here, right? All right, pretty simple map. Turns out the United States is not doing so hot when it comes to COVID, guys. Um, the entirety see all this dark red on this map. It means really not good. It means there is an uncontrolled spread of COVID-19, meaning that any measures that these deep red states are taking are not not very effective. And you'll notice that a lot of these states are states that have not really taken shutdowns that seriously or tried to reopen. These bright red states, they're doing a little bit better. The yellow states, a little bit better. And really the only two places in the entire country that are doing well are these two places up here. This one's Maine. I don't know what this one is. Sorry. Geography, not my strong suit. Yo, where is Hunter Biden? On this map, I believe you will find Hunter Biden, like, somewhere over here, in an underground bunker. I can't give details. I'm not able to reveal his exact location, but go here and find, dig approximately 10 feet deep until you find the pirate gold, and then dig 10 feet down below that, and that's where you'll find Hunter Biden's secret bunker. Yeah, so America's not doing so great when it comes to COVID-19 and controlling the spread, which leads us to this, which, now, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with what Sturgis is. True, this is a stunning red wave. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with what Sturgis is, but basically, Sturgis in the United States is like this giant event where hundreds of thousands of people congregate to ride motorcycles together across the United States. Now, normally, this is a pretty... it's a rambunctious event. It's a bunch of bikers getting together, having a good time, and, like, getting into bar fights and whatever, but generally it's seen as, like, a positive for the communities they ride through because the bikers spend money. Well, turns out this year that Sturgis was not canceled, despite the fact that there is a pandemic, and a lot of the states that they went through, weren't taking any COVID-19 precautions, which turns out that in turn makes Sturgis one of the largest super spreader events in North America, where with a couple 100,000 people who are freely giving COVID-19 to one another and then spreading it to the local communities they pass through. Unfortunately, due to the lack of taking this seriously, we don't know exactly how big the Sturgis super spreader was when it comes to spreading COVID-19. However, if you look at this handy chart, these are the confirmed cases of COVID-19 in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Utah, Nebraska, and Wyoming, which happen to be the states that Sturgis passes through. So this is over the past week as of October 18th, which was a couple days ago. But you'll notice that all of these rural states have had a huge spike in COVID-19 cases. Like, absolutely massive, compared to where they were just a few days ago. Which it turns out is a problem in these smaller states that have less hospital capacity. So, yeah, it's... let's take a look at Eric Topol here. A physician, scientist, author, and editor. Interesting. The largest super spreader event, 870 infections per million people in North Dakota, is an unprecedented peak in the US pandemic and around the world. Second is South Dakota and the Czech Republic, currently 740. So South Dakota is on par with the Czech Republic, just as, like, a point of reference for you. yeah, this is part of why we will never know how big the Sturgis COVID situation is. Entirely because, by the way, that people just don't want to do contact tracing to figure out how big it was and figure out who's infected and get them into the hospital or quarantined. Um, yeah, so on the way up again. Here are the hospitalizations for COVID-19. We're currently right here. This was at the very beginning when everything was awful in New York. This is the second peak, and now we're climbing up again. We got to be number one. United States, number one, baby. Um, and here's the current COVID map of where all the hot spots are since mid-September. Turns out, Midwest and these rural communities in the South, places that aren't taking COVID-19 seriously, have massive spikes in death. Weird how that happens. Weird how there is that correlation, right? Yeah, not good. Very bad. And then let's take a look here at kind of how you can best understand how people are over time reacting to the pandemic and why different areas of the country have responded in different ways at different points in time. So remember at the very beginning when New York City was completely overwhelmed, they had to use stadiums to house as temporary field hospitals. They had to set them up all over the city because they didn't have enough capacity. Trump did a stunt where he sent a boat out there, but like a military hospital boat. But the hospital boat was explicitly not for COVID-19 cases, so it was basically worthless during this time. So yeah, this is at the very beginning where big cities around the United States, specifically on the East Coast and the West Coast, were really getting hit by the COVID-19 hard. And then the surrounding areas a little bit shortly after got hit hard similarly. But then there's a sharp drop off on the the number of cases. And you know why there's that sharp drop off, by the way? It's because those big cities closed down. The states they were in closed down, and the local authorities took measures to have mask procedures and basically paying attention to a lot of the pandemic protocols that had been in place since the very beginning. But you'll notice at the beginning here, overall, it was a big spike, but it's hard to tell as how bad the situation was in some places just from the overall numbers right there. But the medium cities, small towns, the rural communities, they didn't get really hit that hard at the beginning. But you'll notice over time, if we follow this dark blue rural line and the similarly blue lines for small towns and small cities, over time it starts going up until now. COVID-19 deaths are occurring at a greater rate in small town and rural counties than in cities. So this problem is actually increasing more for the spread out, supposedly safer communities in rural areas. Specifically, I need to emphasize this again, because people who live in those areas do not believe, coming straight from the president, that this is something that needs to be worried about. And I need to emphasize this again. This is COVID-19 deaths. These are people dying who would not have died if they hadn't gotten COVID-19. It's really incredible. And so I think as these numbers continue to go up and more people in rural communities start experiencing the loss that people in cities experienced back at the beginning, we're going to see a drastic shift in public perception. And I think that shift isn't going to take place before the election. Definitely not. It might take place after the election, though, when these are all spiking up. And, I'm really scared about all this information. I don't want my fellow countrymen to die. I'm a patriot. I want all of you to live. I want you all to have free healthcare. Decommodify the healthcare system so that everyone has access to it. But the people in power in this country are not nearly as patriotic as I am, and many of them are just saying, "Fuck you, die. You mean nothing to us aside from your vote to get into power, and after that, we're done with you. You are useful stooges to believe our blatant lies and hypocrisies, and we will literally let you die in order to fulfill our agenda, which is not towards you, it's towards our rich donors." So, COVID-19, real bad, not good. Yeah, average daily cases per 100,000 people in the past week. Look at all this. Look at all of this. Yeah, not doing so hot all over here. Or up in Wisconsin. Now, yeah, that is the capitalist spirit. Now, you might want to take a look at this, just to give you some more context. You see all these blue counties on this map? You see all the gray counties? The blue counties on this map are roughly where half the population of the United States come in. Oh, Sato Saccharin, I do not think, I think that a lot of Trump's supporters have 100% bought the poison pill he's selling them. They believe that they will do better under Trump. They believe that his rhetoric aligns with their views. They believe that he is the glorious leader who will lead them to victory. That he is the only one who can save them from their current predicament. And that's all bullshit. But now look at this. Look at this map. Half of the United States population lives in these blue areas. The other half lives in the gray areas. Now, I know we went over this last week. I just need to emphasize to you that there is a sizable amount of people in this country who believe that purely based on the merit of living in these blue counties, that your vote should matter less than theirs. And, I think that is obnoxious. However, there is history that goes along with that. Like, this has been, historically, a tactic in order to obtain power in the United States government. Playing these gray areas off because it's a very large land mass area against these consolidated blue districts because it's a lot easier to convince a spread out and relatively white population that the people in the multicultural cities are against them. In fact, if you notice, there is a really large gray area up here, like really large, that happens to be divided into 4 different states. Well, turns out, if you think about it this way, this actually used to be one state, technically one territory. It was called the Dakota Territory, and basically it got broken up into 4 different states, partially due to conflicting with like Indian or Native American like treaties, and also partially because they wanted more votes in the Senate to get legislation passed. Now, imagine if that was done today, if our politicians were willing to do something like that today, the amount of like hissy fits that either side would throw is unimaginable. Like, if you were just like, yeah, we should split Iowa into in half, so that its votes get we get double the votes from that section of the country, that would be insane. But back then it flew, and so I think that there is a certain argument to be made in favor of packing the courts if you win, because I think that in these current times, it is justified to pack the courts for political power, in order to combat fascism. And that is the current threat that we are staring down from the current Republican Party, 90% of which is behind Trump, an out-and-out fascist. So, an out-and-out fascist who, again, I need to remind you, is willing to let both his supporters die and also his political opponents die, if it consolidates his power. And I also need to remind you that at the beginning of the pandemic, he literally took no action, specifically because he was under the impression, however stupid it might be, that the pandemic would be confined to blue states. So, again, he has said this explicitly. He was under the impression that the pandemic would kill his political opponents and not his political supporters. However, now that that is not the case, he doesn't give a shit. Now it still remains in his best interest to tell his supporters that the pandemic isn't a big problem, and that and keep up his image of a strong man by pretending that even him being currently infected with COVID-19, which I know he got like 2 negative test results from his White House doctor, but I do need to emphasize to you that also this is the man who said that his previous doctor told him he was in like superhuman shape, which is very blatantly not true. Like you just look at a picture of Donald Trump. It's just not true. That man has like a bigger ass than Cardi B, okay? Like let's just be clear. There's no way there isn't something like health-wise wrong with him, even before he got infected with COVID. No. Astra, Trump isn't the Ubermensch. It's Barron. Barron is the Ubermensch, okay? He's gonna grow to be like 9 feet tall. He'll have like robot arms. He'll be wearing like an exoskeleton. He'll basically be like Tony Stark mixed with the Incredible Hulk. That's what we're looking at here with the Barron Trump situation. Yeah, just as an FYI, COVID-19, it's currently a rising problem that isn't getting better, because we have a country that refuses to take the steps necessary in order to combat this. And I need to remind you that at any time, our federal government could just say, okay, states, we have a state of emergency in this country. These are exceptional times. They call for exceptional measures. We are doing a federal lockdown of all non-essential businesses. Anyone caught violating this will be held liable in a court of law, and mandating masks, things of that nature. And then instituting a program, instead of just letting people die of poverty on the street, instituting things like rent freezes, things like eviction freezes, things like sending people payments per month or dual weekly. Other countries have done this. Other countries have literally supplied 80% of people's income from their governments. The United States sent out a $1,200 check and then was like, yeah, I mean, you can also try getting through the unemployment lines to collect some additional money. And we even cut that off before we had the pandemic under control. So, we could be doing so much more. And if we did the federal lockdown across the entire country, we could literally just pretty much over the course of a month, drastically cut the amount of COVID-19 transmission down to a much more manageable point. And then we could resume slowly our daily lives all across the United States. Now, that's not saying we wouldn't take an economic hit during that time. We would. But overall, that hit is less than we would take if we keep on our current path of doing relatively nothing. Which, again, according to Dr. Anthony Fauci, the one who's in charge of our COVID-19 response, if we just had people wearing masks, it would actually be more effective than having a vaccine right now. So if you wear masks, if you and everyone around you wear masks, even if they are the cotton variety, you cut down COVID-19 transmission by about 60%. And there are better masks you can get that cut it down even more. And remember, you wearing a mask isn't to protect you, it's to protect everyone else from you if you have it and don't know it. So, like, do your communities a favor and just wear masks, people. Like, we can actually, if we cut down the transmission rate by that much, we can save over 100,000 lives between now and the end of the year. And we'll see if that actually happens, but currently we're at, like, what, 220,000, 230,000? Let's take a look at the current death toll, okay? COVID cases in US. All right. Yeah, we're currently at 221,000, according to the information on Google, which I don't know how often that's updated. But yeah, things aren't looking great. In the U.S., we have a gain of 64,000 cases, a gain of 517 deaths. And remember, these are deaths on top of, like, our normal yearly amount of deaths. Like, and a large portion of these are preventable. But we are not taking the steps necessary to prevent them. So, that's your COVID-19 news for the day. The president threatening our top doctor, or like besmirching our top doctor and drawing harassment and death threats his way. Totally normal, not fashy, strongman authoritarian behavior.